So Michael, 2018, as you know, has been a very interesting year in terms of the real estate market. We have seen a softening of prices, particularly in the residential real estate sector. And in one of the recent videos that we produced, you say that the species most likely to survive is the one that is most able to adapt to change. So what are the changes that are needed in light of what's going on in the real estate market at the moment?
Oh, okay. That's a very open-ended question.
Yep.
Thanks, John.
I know you can handle it though.
Okay, thanks very much. I think there's many parts to that question.
Yes.
And what I think is this, is that previous video that we just did.
Yes.
Right?
The self-assessment video?
Yeah, the self-assessment video.
Yes.
What happens is a lot of when I think people aren't adapting to change, and I'll talk about the things I think we need to adapt to, but when people are slow to uptake change is because they really don't know where they're at.
Yes.
So therefore, the old saying, you want to get a job done, give it to a busy person, right? My nunna used to say that all the time, right? So he goes, if you ever want anything done, he goes, Michael, I'll give it to you because I know you're busy, but I know that you're slotted in somewhere in your plan, right? Now, so I sort of get that. And I think what's happening is that the slower or the lazier or the more complacent you get, the less likely you are to change.
Yes.
And the less likely you are to envisage change, which is as important as seeing change.
Because change represents more work.
Exactly right.
Yeah, it's going to require
and that's how
a lot more
people
effort.
look at it.
Yep.
So therefore, the changes that I see now are this. I think that stock is going to tighten up. Property is going to tighten up. Prices are starting to regress and settle. And as I've stated before and been criticised a bit and been complimented a bit on, no one knows when the fall will stop. You normally know when the correction stops is after it's stopped.
Yes.
That's when you know.
Yeah.
Right? So in that instance, I do know that when, as I said in the last video, when you're buying real estate, you should be buying with anticipated price 6 months ahead.
Yes.
Right? And working and negotiating on that score. That also does that tends to push the market down too.
Yes.
Right? But then there are always correctors that bring you back to reality when you miss something that you want. Right?
Yes.
So if you're asking me for what I think is going to change is this, I think we're going to run into 2019 in a very different buyer mentality state than what we are right now. I think the buyers are going to be more aggressive. I think the buyers are expecting a better service from the agent. As I just explained to you before, Christian and I have been trying to buy a property, and although our offer might be considered light, the agent had no contact with us. Now, we've seen the agent 3 times now, and when we bumped into the agent on the weekend in a coffee shop having breakfast, the agent wouldn't acknowledge us.
Yeah.
Now, but we got on well with the agent. And then as soon as Christian made the first port of call and said, oh, hi, how you going, blah, and opened up the conversation, the agent was very receptive, great. But the agent had seen us walk in and then put their head down.
Yeah.
Now, that type of social inadequacy, I find, is one of the things that needs to change.
Yes.
Because if they want to ingratiate us as a buyer, and they want to have us put a certain amount of trust in them, and they want to get us up in our price, they need to be more socially apt or apt.
Yes. Yep.
And
is this something you can teach, or is it something that's innate within people?
Well, I think a lot of it is taught.
Yeah.
And I think people, as I may have mentioned beforehand, I see a lot of traits of my 2 boys that came out of my wife and I.
Yeah.
And as they're 24 and 19, I see a lot of their business acumen, traits that both Karen and I have.
Yes.
So therefore they adapt and learn, and people will normally do what they find impressive. So therefore it could be scripted dialogue, it could be mannerisms, and then people learn from observation. And most of us are observant creatures, and we do what we observe to be impressive. That's what I think.
Yes.
And children are the epitome of that. So therefore, if you are of the mindset that you want to propagate growth within yourself, then you will learn from observation. And my father used to say, and I don't think the articulation was right, but my father used to say, Michael, it's always good to deal with people that are better than you. That's not what he really meant. What he meant was learn and observe from people that impress you. That's really what he was saying.
Yeah.
Right. So, and as my father and my dialogue got to a much higher level, that's what I learned from him. I didn't take it literally.
Yeah.
Right. So, on that score, one of the things that agents need to really learn about now is they need to be more socially aware. They need to be better networkers. They need to be more open to the public. And one of the things also too, and I'm in the process of selling a property now, and interesting talking to the agents, is I can remember we used to have like a 5 or a 6 call rule. Even if someone wasn't interested in the property, we still might ring them a period of 5 times over a month or so to see whether we could bring them back into the fold. Now, 20% of the time they'd come back and buy it.
Yeah.
But that was still 1/5 of the time that we would never have got if we hadn't pursued it.
Yep.
So therefore, there are times where we actually make the sale.
Yes.
Where we physically get the deal and make it grow purely by persistence.
Yes.
A lot of that is gone. So, I go, you want to be a friggin' order taker?
Yeah.
Get a job in a shop. But if you want to be a salesman, become a great real estate agent.
Yeah.
Right? And great real estate agents are educators. And so you educate people to buy the property.
Yes.
And we've lost a lot of that. And that's one of the things I think, John, that they need to get their heads out of their ass with, right? And become better educators and educate people and keep buyers informed. But we've lost that art. Not everywhere, but in a lot of what I've seen lately in the last 6 months. And let me tell you, they will be the guys to get out of the industry first.
Yes.
Because they just won't make any coin.
Yep. And with the longer sales cycle now, it's becoming more important to keep that rapport going over the long term. I think perhaps the last few years, it might have been a little bit easier to get a quick sale within the 4-week turnaround.
Yep.
Now we're looking at averages of 6 weeks and beyond. So
it'll go here in Melbourne, mark my words, it'll go to 8 to 15 weeks. Somewhere in between there was where it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's what will happen.
So it's ever more important.
Yes, we need to take into account all the private sales that get sold.
Yes.
Aside from the auctions.
Yes.
The auction rate in Melbourne, even though I think the market's still fairly solid, the auction rate in Melbourne is well below 50%. But a lot of the properties aren't being reported.
Yes. So it could be even lower than that.
Yeah, that's right, and it will be for sure. But there is a lot of benefit in that for the agents that service the buyer as well as they service the vendor.
Yes.
So that change thing is where that's at. So I think some of the other things that need to change is the reliance upon social media in relation to getting your message out.
Yes.
Every agent wants to do a blog. Yes. Every agent thinks they're a YouTube sensation.
Yes.
Every agent does, they pontificate about, they're educating people and all that sort of stuff. I want to be educated by people that have actually done that have run the course.
Yes.
Right. I want to be educated by people that are doing well.
Yes.
Right. I want to be educated by people that have a good lifestyle. I want to be educated by people that have done the hard yards and all that sort of stuff. Yes. So for those you young people that are working in the perceived training industry, my goal to you would be, and if you're a real estate agent, my goal to you would be is become a better real estate agent first, then worry about being a YouTube sensation.
Absolutely.
I know that sounds hard, but that's where I see that.
I mean, it's definitely the right place to be to promote your own personal brand and a business brand.
Absolutely.
Everyone has to have a social media presence, but I think what you're saying about doing the hard work first and actually having some substance behind you is paramount before you get on and start promoting, what services you might be able to offer.
Well, exactly right. And just you've educated me very much to YouTube since we've started this channel. And that's been great for me. Yep. But when I look up people on YouTube, like Simon Sinek and a few of those guys that impress me, I look at all their background and go through their bio.
Yeah.
And go, okay, I'm going to watch this guy.
Exactly.
And see, and so I do a bit of research. I don't just go and flagrantly watch him and go, the first time that you put me onto him, I looked at all his bio and what he'd done and where he'd spoken at and all that sort of stuff. And I went, okay, this guy's going to get my attention.
Yes.
But I wouldn't just off the cuff watch somebody, spend an hour watching them without understanding their background.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how I think. Not everyone thinks like that, I get that. But I think, and that's all getting back to the prep. If I'm going to spend time on something, and time's my precious resource, I'm going to do some prep on it.
Yes. Well, it's one of the great things about the way we approach our videos is that we enter each session with an understanding of what we're going to cover for the day.
Yes.
And we're usually picking topics that are relevant at that point of time. And we're really giving out a lot of great content that there is a lot of preparation involved. But what we're seeing a lot of people doing is just posting 5 or 6 times a day anything that might come across their mind. There's no real theme behind what they're doing. There's no genuine purpose or benefit. So I think if you're going to approach social media, you really do have to have a strategy in place, which is one of the things that you've always said is important with any business venture.
Yes.
Is forming a strategy before you actually implement.
Absolutely. And the business plan setup of any business, and there's 2 businesses that I'm involved in here that I consult with.
Yes.
And we've spent that much time on prep, even to the point where one of the principals of the other company said to me about 3 weeks ago, Michael, this is getting really boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went, the reason it's boring is because you haven't got your head out of your ass with this yet.
Yeah.
Right? Because this plan's still not right.
Yes.
Now, from that, we implemented that plan 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And when I spoke to him yesterday, he goes, I now get it.
Yeah.
Because things are falling into line really quickly.
Yes.
And I said, what'll happen if the plan is right and the strategy is good and solid? It doesn't mean you don't change it. But what happens is that things will fall into line real quick. But if your plan's not right, you're going to just be sitting there waiting and anticipating for a result. That's very frustrating.
Yes.
Because when we put something in place and we don't get a response fairly quickly, we get disheartened. So my goal generally as a trainer is to say, let's avoid all that bullshit. Let's get the strategy and the prep right, and the benefit will come quicker than you think.
Yeah.
And that's 99 out of 100 times. That's how it works for me.
Yeah.
It's all about the prep.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. And that also comes down to self-assessment, which we've been big on in the last few videos.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you're not already aware, we produce this PDF, which you can download online at lifeloveandrealestate.com. And this is a great PDF that we really encourage you to print out and fill in to go through the whole process. But one of the things that I found interesting when you came up with these questions was before you embark on anything, the self-assessment required is really paramount before you initiate any goals, structures, plans, anything that you want to be doing. The first question, for example, is can you answer the following questions truthfully? That's really
a lot of people don't
amazing.
like that question.
People don't like it because it's confronting.
Yes, a lot of people don't like it. And I've had a few people say to me, one in particular from another state here in Australia, said to me, he rang me and he said, that was a great question.
Yeah.
He goes, because it absolutely put me on a back foot.
Yeah.
Right? And he said to me, I really hate you how you do that. And I said, well, no, because I know how dishonest I am with myself.
Yes.
So I'm only posing the question
Yep.
that I asked myself, because one of the things that I've found, when I've failed, I'm the defeatist.
Yes.
I'm the one that actually, I can't blame anybody else. I'm the one that actually messed it up.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it. So I'm only asking the question that I would ask of myself. And when I've answered that question honestly, the game's completely changed.
Yeah.
Do you know?
And that's all about accountability. And you're willing to be accountable to yourself to say, yes, I'm going to be honest from here onwards as I approach this. And also the other one was about, are you in control of your psychology and physiology? These are mentality. 2 important things before you even embark on setting any goals. Yeah. That's really important to understand.
And it's one of the interesting things that I noticed. I saw that Queen movie last night, which I loved.
Yeah,
I thought
Bohemian
it was
Rhapsody.
great. Yeah, and people are criticising that.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of things there. And as brilliant as Freddie Mercury was, Brian May was quite a genius.
Yeah.
And one of the things in the movie is it just showed that Brian May, how solid he was all through that career.
Yes.
And he kept that band. He was like the conduit or the glue.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, you look at that and you go, everyone played a real important role, and they were all very well educated people individually.
Yes.
Right. They were all quite brilliant in their own fields. Like Brian May was an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
You know? So you learn all those things, and then there is always, he was like the baseline, right? And that's like in a good marriage or a partnership, etc. So therefore, I've based a lot of those questions on a baseline type mentality.
Yes.
Like the Brian May analogy, and go, I'm not always on, and because I'm maybe a little bit flamboyant in some areas of my life, the reality of it is you tend to be like this sometimes.
Yes.
I'm trying to get a baseline where the baseline, I raise the baseline up.
Yeah.
Every time I answer the questionnaire. Now, since we've released that questionnaire, I've done that questionnaire twice.
Yeah.
Right? Since we've done, I've done it twice, and I didn't check the first one I did, and the second one, the answers to the questions in the second one were quite different in some cases to the answers to the questions in the first one.
So what do you think the difference was between doing it the first
Well,
and second
I was
time?
more aware of some things, so
Yes.
therefore I worked on some things, and some of my relationships have actually got better.
Yeah, which is interesting because you always talk about the need to reassess, reevaluate your goals, for example,
Yep.
and be prepared to be flexible and reset them when necessary.
Absolutely.
So part of that whole goal setting process, which we've outlined here, really needs to be undertaken on a regular basis. It's not as though you fill this in once and just follow it
No,
for
and
the whole
maybe it should
year.
be done every 12
Yeah.
weeks. I
Yeah.
did it within a month of each other.
Yes.
Just to see.
Yeah.
And I did that because what happened was that I was feeling I was a bit out of whack. And because we've got quite a few business ventures running right now, I actually went through a period a couple of weeks ago where I thought I was losing a little bit of control.
Yes.
It was only because I was tired,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then I had 3 nights in bed before 10, made the world a difference.
Yeah.
Completely made. I'm up at 6,
Yeah.
up at 4:45, 20 to 6, bang, I'm on.
Yeah, which is the second question about have you got your physiology right? Not
Yes.
just the psychology, but are you in a physical state that's going to be allow you to be your optimum decision making?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, my philosophy on you cannot make any decisions when you're angry,
Yes.
inebriated, etc., or
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Interestingly enough, that was one of our most popular posts on Instagram.
oh, was it?
That went really well. Yeah, people
Oh,
can
okay.
relate to that one.
Okay,
So
I really should get on that.
got hundreds of likes on that one.
Oh, did we? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Was that good? Well,
Yeah.
that's the reality.
Yeah.
Because and it's very hard to actually abide by that. And look, you know what? We're human. So, as we joked with Mary this morning about, regimentation and that, I think a certain amount of regimentation is good. I don't know if you can have total regimentation. I can never
Yes.
be like that.
Yes.
But the reality of that is that if we can get to a point where we self-assess on a reasonably regular basis, we'll be better off because you always feel better when you think you're achieving your goals.
Yes.
It's as simple as it gets.
And related to goals is your ability to sacrifice, and that's one of the questions in the questionnaire as well.
Yep.
What sort of things do you think people should be prepared to sacrifice in order to achieve their goals on both a professional and personal basis?
I can tell you the things that I've sacrificed and the things that I've seen
Yes.
others sacrifice.
Yes.
Now, a conversation that I had yesterday, and I like to give answers by examples, is I had one of the agents that I'm dealing with at the moment, who is extremely proficient and one of probably the better agents in Melbourne, last night said that there was a particular, they're running a big campaign on a property on the other side of town, and it got to 6 o'clock and they didn't want to ring the buyer or send the buyer a text while they're negotiating after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, why?
Yeah.
Because I think that I'm infringing on them. I went, right. I said, what's the value of the property worth? He said, the property's worth about 15 million. I said, okay. I said, so therefore, for the vendor, it's a big sale, and for the buyer, it's a big sale.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, yes. I said, but you don't want to infringe on the buyer's private time because it's after 5:30 you perceive now. Is that right? He said, yes. I said, okay, let's look at that.
Yeah.
If you were the buyer
Yeah.
and you were buying a property for $15 million, would it be on your mind at 6 o'clock at night?
Absolutely. I'd take the call any time of night.
Exactly right. And 99% of the people would. So therefore, and I said, because what you're doing is you're not empathizing with your clients.
Yes.
So therefore, you're
Yes.
negating the service level that you give them,
Yes.
and you're not really thinking about how you can do a better job. So therefore, you're not self-assessing.
Yeah.
Now, the sacrifice question comes into there.
Yeah.
I said, you need to sacrifice your personal and social time, which what I think he was really getting at for himself,
Yes.
right? You have to sacrifice your personal time to do a better job for your vendor. Do you agree with that? In the end, yes, was the answer.
Yes.
Right? I said, okay. So in answering your question, you have to give away and sacrifice your personal time. You might have to sacrifice social time. You might, if you're working, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, you're going to need sleep. So you might not go out on a Saturday night.
Yes.
Or you might go to the local restaurant for a meal and you're in bed by 10 because you're working Sunday maybe.
Yeah.
So therefore, what I've found in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, that a lot of real estate people are out of sync with what they need to do to be successful. And that is sacrifice their time.
Yes.
That's the first thing you give away. The second thing that you give away is you give away the ability to be able to please other people in your social realm, because you can't give them the time.
Yes.
And that is the fallback from that, or
Yeah.
the second tier of that.
Yeah.
So they're the things that I found that I had to sacrifice. I had to and my mum always used to laugh after I got into real estate. You know, I was always called Larry the Late because I was always late to everything. So, and my mum was very accepting of that.
Yes.
Right? Because she said, while I was building, that was all okay. And interestingly enough now, the last year or two since we've been really busy here, what's happened is it started to happen again. So the jokes sort of come back in.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is when people know that you're happy and you're on a mission, they'll wear all that. My wife wears it. My business partner wears it. Mary wears it.
Yes.
My mum wears it. And because they know that we've got a lot of things on.
Yeah.
Now, the reality of that is I don't like being late. But generally speaking, if it's a social event, if I'm going to sacrifice being late anywhere, it's generally a social event.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to finish things off. So, and I don't like carrying too much forward to the next day if I can help it. So on that score, they're probably the two main things that sacrifice first.
Yeah, and that's also got to do with prioritization, being able to understand what's most important, what needs to be taken care of first, and putting business before your own personal life and
that was like that conversation. Is that the agent really wasn't necessarily saying he was trying to give some thought to the buyer and not intrude in the buyer's private time. That's rubbish, bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? The reality of it is they just couldn't be bothered after 5:30 because they're automatically switching off then because they think it's their right.
Yeah.
Right? I'm saying to you, private time and free time is a privilege.
Yes.
Right? So it's not your right that you get to that. Your job is to increase your standard of living for you and the ones that you love.
Yes.
So therefore, and if you're not providing a better service, you can't do that.
Yes.
Simple.
On the flip side of the coin, we have people now with access to the internet 24/7, mobile phones, taking their computers home, often probably extending the boundaries of work into the home environment. So what do you think about going to the other extreme where people are not able to switch off and not able to give themselves enough time with their loved ones and the people around them to re-energize and feel refreshed for the next day?
I think that balance can be hard. And there's no, people talk about routine and balance and all that stuff, and it's great. And I abide by a lot of it, as you know.
Yes.
So say, for instance, I might have, and because I'm reasonably well planned, and I've got a fairly good work set up at home. So what I do is if I know next week that I've got quite a few deals happening, I know I might leave the office at 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yes.
So I might say that at home, between, say, the hours of sort of 3 till 6 or 3 till 7, I might go home and watch some TV or do whatever and just have a bit of a break.
Yes.
Then I have dinner.
Yes.
And then I'll say to Care, listen, the day before normally, I'll say to her, listen, Wednesday night, I'm going to be in the study till about midnight.
Yes.
So if you can, please don't annoy me. She goes to bed and does whatever. And then by about 12 o'clock, I get out and I'll do it. And sometimes it's later than that, depending on what I've got on and what calls overseas I have and all that stuff. So I go through that. But I'm well planned with that. So everyone knows and is accepting. And they generally know that when the study door is closed, it has to be really important to intervene or interrupt me.
It's really important to have that framework set out and the people around you, the people that love you, aware of what you're going through and supporting you on that.
Yes, so what my needs are to fulfill my goals.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and they're all part of the journey too. So then when you retrospectively look back at it, I can tell you all the things that I've done successfully have all had a fairly good pattern of behaviour. Yeah. Because I set it up right. And it's interesting because nearly all arguments or misgivings or disagreements, whatever it might be, are a lack of communication. Yeah. But when you tell someone up front what they can expect or what you might need, everyone will ingratiate you. Yes. That's what I found. So therefore my job, before anything else, is to be the best communicator I can be. Yeah. And to make people to the aware. Advantage of everybody else. Yeah. In the past, you've said that fear motivates and doubt kills. What are some of the things that you think most people are afraid of, and how does one go about conquering those fears? Okay. All right. The first thing that I think of, right off the cuff, is most people are fearful of not being successful because they know they haven't done enough homework. They haven't done enough prep. Yes. That's what I found. And, script and dialogue and all that stuff's great, but knowing the market, being a real estate educator, not a salesperson or an order taker is better. Being an educator. That means that you need to know what's going on. So I find most people, that's the problem, is that they just haven't done enough homework. So they have self-doubt because they know they haven't done the homework.
Yes.
So, and it's no different to my youngest son now, just going through all his VCE examinations. He came out of the maths one saying, listen, Dad, I've done really well, and even the English one, I've done well. He goes, I couldn't have done any more prep. So whatever the figure I'm going to get is, it's the best I can get.
Yes.
That's a great comment.
So being educated and being prepared for what's going to face
because
you.
When you do better prep, you're more calmer. You're more sedate because you know you've done it.
Yes.
When you're on edge generally, unless you've got a nervous disorder, it's generally because you know you haven't done everything you possibly could have done.
Yeah. And in terms of making money, I mean, fear does guide us in all aspects of our lives. But in terms of being courageous enough to invest in certain opportunities.
Fear can drive. Sorry to interrupt, but I just think there's two things with that. I have, and I've mentioned this to you before, when you know your fears, what I've learned from many people that I've observed is when you know your fears, you're a stronger individual.
Yeah.
Like Superman knows that kryptonite's bad.
Yes.
So he avoids it.
Yeah.
Right? So what I do is I have two fears. One is dying alone and the other one is dying broke.
Yes.
Right? So, and those fears at 56 are the same as what they were when I was 20.
And it's going to be different for everyone.
Absolutely.
So self-assessment is paramount here.
Absolutely. So because I know that, and I don't really think about those things now because I don't have to, but the reality of that is that I've always worked, and that's been my motivating and driving force, that I want to have choice.
Yes.
In everything that I do. How I die, how I live.
Yes.
I want to have choice. So now that I've got that as my standard, the rest is pretty easy. So I do everything with that template in the back of my head moving forward.
Yeah.
Everything's done with that in the back. I might not think about it, but all the premise is all done on that score.
Yeah. And you mentioned the word standard before. How does one know where they should be setting their standards, whether they're at the right standard at the moment in terms of setting their goals, or whether they need to be increasing their standards? I think most of us probably should be trying to stretch our goals and increasing our standards much higher. How do we know what our standards should be? Do we compare it against our peers? Do we, is there a way of knowing if we're on track with our goals for where, a particular point in our life?
So Dr. Fred talks about stretch goals, which is great, which we try and encompass in our family a lot. Goals beyond what you normally think you could achieve.
Yes.
I liken it to this. I may know what I need, but I generally really know what I want.
Yes.
This is how it works for me.
Yes.
And I know that generally if I get what I want, that's more than covered my needs.
Yes.
So, and that might be in everything. It could be in health, wealth, lifestyle, family, friends, whatever it might be. So I don't know whether I'm answering this 100% correctly, but the reality of it is for me is that I'm very attuned with what I want, and what my desires are.
Which has to do with self-awareness.
Yeah, it does. Yes. And that's why those questions are very important.
Yes.
And, people, there's a lot of great one-liners out there, and one of them is, I'm the equivalent of my 3 best friends, or who I mix with, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, and that's great.
I guess that's where I was getting at. In terms of setting your standards, do you look at your peers and make a judgment upon where you're sitting at this particular point in time in your life? Is there, obviously a standard is going to be different for everyone. So you might have a goal to achieve a certain amount of wealth. Some people might say, I'd like to have 1 investment property and $500,000 of a share portfolio, and I'm happy with that. That's my standard.
That's right.
Some people might say, I want to have 15 properties and I want to be traveling overseas 4 times a year. So we all have different standards. And I guess the question I'm asking there is, they're going to be different for everyone, but is there a way to assess what your standards should be?
Well, my baseline for that is, was that engagement with that person, did that leave me better off? Now, I'm not talking fiscally, not even emotionally sometimes. Sometimes I'll just have a chat with a mate and we talk about bullshit. There's no content and I walked away feeling happier.
Yes. So happiness is one of the criteria
for me,
for you setting your goals and for everything that you do.
Absolutely.
You need to derive happiness out of it.
Yes. But you have friends for a season, reason, and a lifetime.
Yes.
Right? As a good friend of mine in Sydney once told me.
Yeah.
And in that case, when she spoke about that, it just resonated straight away from the point of view that I know for me that does happen. And sometimes people come into your life for a certain reason, season, or a lifetime. And that quote is quite pertinent, because sometimes you think someone will be there forever, and you meet them and they ingratiate themselves with you straight away, and it's all good. But you know that the candle will burn out.
Yes.
Because sometimes a bright candle doesn't last all that long.
Yes.
That's what I found. Now, so I sort of accept that in that case, but I have friends of mine. I've got a friend of mine up in Gippsland that's just sold a property for $300,000, which in Melbourne terms is nothing, and who is over the moon.
Yes.
He is absolutely banging the drums. Elated. Let me tell you, I've got on that way. I'm just so happy for him. It's great. That's a big deal for him, because he bought the property at $90,000.
Yeah.
Now, so that was about 10 years ago. So in reality, so everyone has a different a different set of standards financially, what they want. But the way that he spoke to me about the sale and how it's going to change his life, etc., I got off the phone thinking, wow, that was great. I didn't even think of the figures till now since we were talking. But just what it did for him and how he prepped it, and he thanked me for some of the help I gave him in picking his agent, etc. Those sort of things. Do you know, like, he's now a better business person because he's gone through that transaction.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And he's a much happier person because he's gone through that transaction. And so they're the sort of things that happen. And so I don't equate the fact that was a $300,000 property, not a $30 million property.
Yeah.
I equate the fact that him and I went through a learning curve together, and we're both better off for it.
Yeah.
And that was great. So, and so they're the sort of things that I look at. So from that perspective, he made a couple of points to me, observation-wise, about the agent that alerted me to some things that I actually didn't advise him on initially.
Right. Yeah.
So I've picked up on things now.
Yeah.
I went, okay, got it.
So you can learn from each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's sort of interesting in relation to setting your goals that we've outlined in the PDF yet again. It's not as though there are particular goals that you should have in mind. They're going to be dependent on that self-assessment process that you undertake.
Well, when you self-assess, the goals will be clearer.
That's right.
That's what I found.
Which is why you had the self-assessment questions up front. So you've really got to ask yourself those questions first before you can decide what goals are appropriate to be setting.
Yes.
And that might be for a real estate agent looking at performing better in their job. It might be in investing goals, personal development goals. It's all the same. You need to be aware of yourself and what makes you happy before you go about setting your goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And do you remember the comment that I make a lot of, which people throw back at me quite a bit, right? Because they like it, is that when home is good and work is shit, everything's still good.
Yeah.
But when home is shit, forget the rest. Everything is shit.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why the self-assessment seminar is good, or the self-assessment questionnaire, because what will happen is that if you can get that done honestly and correct for you, and your home is good, no matter what comes in the outside world, the work world, you will be able to tackle it.
Yes.
Because your foundation is good. Because home is the foundation here. Without a solid home foundation, very hard to be successful. Nearly impossible, in my opinion. Nearly impossible. And when I look at people, like you look like Anthony Robbins and Grant Cardone and all those guys that are doing great and very impressive, they've all got really stable home lives.
Yes.
They just have.
Yeah.
And that's so, and there's quite a few speakers now, especially on YouTube, Daniel Pink and a few others that I like, and you listen, and that they might not mention it in that light, but that's what they're talking about, that stable foundation behind you.
Yes.
And that's why that self-assessment questionnaire is good. It's fairly basic, but it works for me. So therefore, I'll repeat it, but if home is good and work is shit, everything's still okay.
Yep, 100%. I reckon that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I reckon we covered it.
That's a good run of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, guys, look, thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening. The self-assessment questionnaire is there, as John said, is there to download for you whenever you want. Any opinions and comments on it would be greatly received and looked at and viewed and respected, I might add. I can only thank you very much on behalf of Life, Love and the Pursuit of Real Estate. Thanks for watching. Stay great.